Hello, thank you for being here. This is my guest, Bradley Michael Cashin, the second ever design build show. So the purpose of this show is to educate people on what design build is. I feel like still not a lot of, even though it is pretty common in our industry, I think the layperson probably doesn't know that much about it, but it's also probably more so for people in the industry. People who are considering, younger folks who are considering getting in the industry, or people who are looking to make a change. And Bradley Michael Cashin is a design builder. He is featured the latest issue of the New England Home, and right here, you can see him right there. That's his handsome picture. And Bradley works at NEDC.
Yep.
Proud to say that. How long have you been at NEDC?
It'll be 5 years in July, I think.
Oh, bless your soul.
Yeah. Good times happen fast, or?
Yeah. And when people ask you what you do, what do you tell them? Like, what's the title you tell them?
I usually just say construction. It depends on where I'm at, and how in depth I want to get about it, because it is such a kind of a.
You ever say design builder?
I do, yeah.
I always say design builder.
If people want to know, I'll tell them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'll say architecture and construction.
Yeah. If you say I'm a design builder, like what percentage of people you think would be like?
I don't know if I've ever used the term design builder in a public setting. I think I'd say architecture and construction.
Because why? You don't think people would know what the hell you're talking about, or for the most part? Yeah. I do. I say. Start saying.
Maybe I should start it. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm
making it a thing, man.
Maybe it's my fault people don't know, so I got to start.
Yeah. Well, so Bradley, I asked Bradley to be on the show because he is, he has, well, he's going to tell the story, but he has got a background, like a really great background for a design builder, and I think, in design build, the design build is where you have, instead of having an architect separate and a contractor or builder separate, bring them together, and you have one entity that is responsible for the entire project. Very similar to the way that the majority of projects have been executed when you look at history. It's only been the past 100, 150 years where it's really been separated, whereas previously it was like one entity over the whole thing. And Bradley, he has a lot of these different skill sets in one. So, how did you start off in this industry?
So I started off in construction. I was probably like 17, 16.
Yeah. In high school?
I was in landscaping for a few years.
Okay.
And that was just like summer jobs and after school work, and trying to get enough money to put gas in the car kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I forget how I came about it, but I started framing houses, and I went to Eastern Michigan for a couple years for construction management. It wasn't really my passion, you know what I mean? Like I got it, but to be honest, like architecture and design was never really something I considered. I grew up in the more blue collar neighborhood. So it was never like I didn't know any attorneys or any architects or any doctors.
Detroit, right? In the Detroit suburb?
California,
Okay, good.
It's a great city, but it was like, I knew a lot of people in construction, but not any architects, let's say.
Yeah. So you went to Eastern Michigan College? That's college?
Yeah, for 2 years.
It was a 2-year degree, or?
No, I did not finish. I actually
it was a 4-year college, or was
it was a 4-year college?
Okay.
Yeah, for construction management, and then I decided to join the military because
Cool.
I had 9/11 happened right after my freshman year.
Okay.
And then at first I kind of thought that everything was going to end quicker than it did, and it obviously has not. We were all very wrong about that.
What was going to happen?
The war was going to end sooner.
Oh.
Than it did. Like when it first happened, I was like, I'm not going to do this, and then so I decided to join the military. After I did that for 3.5 years, I got out in 2006, 2007.
Yeah. What were you in the military?
I was in the infantry.
Infantry.
So just
He was a sniper.
Yeah, I went to sniper school.
Yeah. And you served overseas, right?
I spent 15 months in Iraq. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Thank you for your service.
Yeah. It was interesting time. So So after that, I went to. I decided to go back to school, right? And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought construction management again. So
Yeah.
I actually moved to New York, and I went to a community college.
Okay.
And they didn't have a construction management course. They had engineering or they had architecture.
Uh-huh.
And I spoke to the individuals there about like what I wanted to do, what my interests were in.
Yeah.
And they said you should take some architecture courses as well, and if you want to go to construction management to learn how to read.
Oh wow.
That.
Yeah.
So I ended up taking an architecture history class and some other courses, and I just fell in love.
Yeah.
With design,
that's
with architecture, and there was like no looking back. Like once I mean, I was probably 27 at that time in my life, so I think I was a little bit older.
Cool. Yeah.
As far as like career path goes.
Right.
But I knew that's exactly
What was
I
it? What was it that made you fall in love with it?
Just the effect you could have on a society. You know, I truly believe that like our buildings can really kind of determine who we are as people, or at least reflect who we are as people.
Yeah.
You know,
Winston Churchill, I think, has got a quote like, you know, first we shape our buildings and then they shape us.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's just like, you know, you look at any great society throughout history, and 9 times out of 10, the first thing you think of is a building. You think of like the pyramids, or you think of like the Gothic churches, or you think of like the Roman temples, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very common that, it's very uncommon that you think of a society where people don't think of the buildings first.
But like when you're in an art history class, I mean, I've taken a lot of architecture history classes, and like, was it just like, that didn't all come together for you at once, right? What, did you just like look at the pictures and were you like, oh wow, that is beautiful? Like what, or were you like, wow, this, I can see how this would really improve a society or somebody's life?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of both. I think that when I was in the military, I spent a lot of times blowing things up.
Yeah.
And I there was also this time in my life where I wanted to like build something.
Oh, cool.
You know, so I did a lot of.
Oh, that's awesome. Man.
Yeah, so that was probably a part of it too for me.
Yeah. You wanted to help.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And so I finished that community course, that community college course.
Yeah.
And I was interning in an architecture firm, which I really enjoyed.
Oh wow.
Did some mostly residential, some light commercial.
Yeah.
Residential is always what appealed to me. I think that, you know, for me, like I like to be in control of everything. I like to kind of be accountable for the whole process. And when you look at the larger project, there's just more hands, right? And kind of there's more cooks in the kitchen. Those larger projects, which isn't a bad thing. Those large projects, you know, need that. But you know, for me, it's really important to kind of be aware and being in control of everything.
Yeah.
So.
That's what that firm did, or what did they do?
No, they were just an architecture firm. Yeah,
they did.
You know, 5-person firm.
Oh, okay.
Firm. Yeah, so smaller. Great firm. And then I was looking at schools, and I was looking at a couple different schools. I knew I didn't want to go to a college town, so I was looking at University of Texas, which I loved.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't really want to move to Austin at that point in my life. I was kind of used to that New York area and wanted to stay there. And I liked Pratt a lot. And I liked the BAC a lot. I liked their mission. And
Boston Architectural College.
Yeah, exactly. And I decided to come to Boston. I decided to move to Boston and go to the BAC. I like their mission a lot. They have, if you're not familiar, they have adjunct professors. So all their professors
practice
work during the day and they teach at night.
Okay.
So for me, that was like having that applied knowledge was very important. I thought that having those professors who were, you know, practiced was important to me.
They're very internship based too, right? Like compared to other schools,
it's a complete work study program, which is very difficult.
Other schools, you just like architecture schools, you just study, you do studios, you graduate, and then you do your internships. This one is more integrated, right?
Exactly. Most schools, it's a Bachelor of Architecture tends to be a 5-year program. Yeah. And then after those, you need to do your internship hours, which state to state is about 3 years in Massachusetts, like 6,000 plus hours. At the Boston Architectural College, it's a 7-year program, but you work concurrently with the program.
7 years, oh wow.
So, but you can gain those internship credits while you're in school.
So how much internships? How much before you started with NEDC? How many firms did you work for? Or like what?
Oh, just 2. Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
So you had 2 internships
and a construction firm as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So you can use construction hours.
Oh, nice.
I think it's like 1,000 construction hours to be applied towards those internships.
What was the sequence? Was it like architecture firm, construction, architecture, or like?
It was like exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
So
And what do you think about, like, here's kind of a theory of mine. in architecture school, right? You have just comparing it to design build. I don't know how to say this nicely, but it's a little bit like at some point in history, like if you look at history, the original guys that started the AIA, the majority of them were actually builders. But they were responsible for like creating this segue, right? But they knew how to build because they were builders, and but they wanted to distinguish themselves as architects. So like, they could take a student and teach them how to build. Like they knew how to build, so they could like critique them and such. I feel like, once the training started to get in universities and out of the field and out of people who like knew how to construct and put things together, it's kind of like a certain few of those loops, and you got like the blind leading the blind.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I think that so when you talk about like academic architecture, it's something that I am into in like an academic sense. I've owned all the coffee table books. I have endless conversations.
Very well versed.
That would bore anybody else that was not in architecture.
I don't know what he's talking about half the time.
I don't disagree. And I think too, beyond that, there was a situation in which you saw people went to university to become architects, right? They went to the field, and those who did not like the applied, actual, real-world architecture went back to the schools to teach. So there was almost like a snowball effect, And the academic architecture started getting more and more, off to like, the left or the right.
What does that mean though? Academic architecture as like a term?
Just more, not paper architecture, stuff that's never actually going to be built.
Okay.
Like the ideas behind what drives architecture. Like the different responses to these different things, but like, it's like ask any architecture student. You spend about 90% of your time doing studio work, right? Which is going to be about 5 to 10% of your real life time, right? So if you really love that studio work, if you really love that kind of exploratory work, which I think is important and has a place in architecture, absolutely. But it's disproportionate to the real world, but what you're going to spend your time on.
Right. Now, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you can go ahead. That's it.
So I remember when you started, you were working. The last job you had was with an architecture firm. And
I came from a construction firm, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was your last gig? I thought you were in like, okay, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But I remember you made a comment like, oh, well, the checks and balances. Like, talk about the argument like against design build, right? Because you had that, and I'd like to know, what the mindset was then and if that's changed at all.
So when I speak to anybody, friends, family, potential clients about kind of the pros and cons, I think the largest pro you have in a design bid build, right, where you have an architect and a contractor separate entities, is the checks and balances system, right? Which I think it's a good thing because basically you have an architect that is looking out for the design, looking out for the client, the contractor is looking out for the construction portion and the client, and in a harmonious situation that can work out very well. So
okay, I get you.
You do lose that in a design build firm. So I tell people whenever they are looking to hire a design build firm, you just got to make sure you're hiring somebody that you have a lot of trust in, has been around for a long time, and because like I guess they could kind of quote unquote take you for a ride because you're putting all your trust in one entity basically. Right.
As
opposed to you lose that, right? Which is
I feel you. Yeah. I mean, I think in the ideal world with the design bid build, like both in that scenario though, here's my 2 cents on it. Like the architect and the contractor, they're like still overreaching. Like they have like more of a design build mindset when they're thinking like, over into the other person's realm. Because like for me, and I think for you, design build is all about, being accountable, being responsible. And I think the most successful architects and the most successful builders out there, that's what they're about too. They're about like having a successful project and like not just looking at like, just having this tunnel vision, that's outside my purview. I'm not, I don't have anything to do with that.
I mean, I think like I said, there's like not sound like I'm not picking a side, but like when you have like over specialization, right? So you might have an HVAC contractor that's only thinking about the HVAC. And we have a plumbing contractor that's only thinking about the plumbing. and you might have electrical contractors who might think about electrical work.
Yeah.
But someone's got to make all those things come together harmoniously,
Right,
right?
right.
So like just because something's in the best interest of the HVAC doesn't mean it's the best interest of the plumbing or the electrical.
Right,
And the same
right.
thing in design and construction.
Right.
So, you know, a true design build individual has that holistic approach.
Yeah,
And they,
yeah.
they understand
Yeah.
every part and how it's got to happen
Yeah.
together. So that I think that is, you know, where an architect might be doing what's best for the design,
Yeah.
and a contractor might be doing best for the cost.
Yeah.
There's no one there to like balance those and help the client be like, hey, this is the benefit and this is the cost.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Totally,
And like how can
yeah.
and how can we maximize the benefit while minimizing the cost?
It's hard. It's hard if you're only like, you know, legally or contractually responsible for a certain facet. Like even with our subcontractors, right? Our best subcontractors are innately like looking out for more.
Yeah.
They're looking for a successful project. They're
Yeah.
not just looking for like get out, do my thing. Like they're gonna, if they see something, they're gonna like that can make things better. They're gonna mention it. And you know, one of the things I think you do well is like you do that well. Like you are a very creative person, and you have like this. I don't want to say like feminine side of you, but this like, you know, kind of like very caring, nurturing side. But you were a freaking sniper in the. You're a badass fucking sniper too. Like you got that
Long time ago.
yin and yang, which I think like in design build, because like you don't want it to be just like, you know, a contractor who calls themselves design build, and you're not really getting like the best design there, right? Like I feel like some people can think about design build in that way, like it's like sacrificing, or it's like you know, it's like, but like really the ideal is to make it all great, right? Like you just talk about that.
And I think too, like there's a connotation, as you said, that somehow design and design build is less than. I think part of that is because it's a highly monetized term right now, right? It's kind of like green building.
Yeah.
Like what is, you know what I mean? Like everyone say like my product's green. It's like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? So you have bamboo floors. That bamboo was shipped here from China, or the oak from New England is actually much better for the environment. But because people kind of latch on this idea, same thing with design build, that like there are a lot of contractors out there that are building themselves as design build, who are really build design. Right? Like they're not true design build firms. Peter Feynman taught us that term. And I firmly believe that the more and more I look out there. So a lot of guys have kind of, you know, put the word design on their truck in the last 10 years that are not true designers. And there's also a connotation to that. Also, a designer can be a lesser contractor, lesser builder. It's really like, I mean, it's my goal to be the best at both. Like even if we were a separate company, if we were an architecture firm and a construction firm, you would still hire us for both things individually, because we're the best at both. That's, you know, that's the goal. That's the kind of daily.
Awesome.
What I bring to the office daily. But I, you know, it's partially the industry's fault in the way they bill it. You know what I mean? And what passes for design today. And I think also it's you know, individuals' fault as well.
I mean, I want to talk a little bit about your future aspirations, because I think that's pretty awesome. But also, in terms of like, you know, being, you know, I want to say fresh out of the university, because but still got a little bit to cross the finish line. But like what could change there? Like how are current you know, architectural universities teaching kids that are like kind of like like what needs to change there? In
design build's becoming much more popular. In the late 80s, early 90s, we saw a big push for it again. You know, you look at like the architecture coming out of the universities like in the 60s and 70s, kind of in the 80s. It was kind of that white box architecture that a lot of people, that average Americans don't really understand, or average people don't tend to like that much. You know, very beautiful work, but you know, maybe not super in tune with like what the average homeowner wanted. So we've seen a push for it. There are more schools that tout themselves as design build. Actually, a really great one. Auburn University has a great design build school. It is difficult for schools to, I think, teach design build.
I think,
because
big time.
Because a construction project can go over budget and can go over timelines, where a class on paper rarely does. You can kind of adjust it, right? You can't just like not put a roof on a project and say it's done. So I think it is difficult, but I do think there's a huge push for that. I also think that, you know, you could come at it from the other direction as well, where construction management programs could start teaching more architecture.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think not only do architects need to understand builders better, but builders need to understand architects better.
Right.
And you could kind of come from both directions
Yeah.
in the middle.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I guess like where I'm coming from is a bit like there needs to be like in this industry currently, like who's the chief, who's the chief person who's like responsible for running a project.
Yeah.
The great majority of history, that was the architect.
Yes.
And it's kind of not anymore because architects don't know what things cost and clients care what things cost and they're not they can be they don't build every day, so it's like the practicality maybe they might need some help in that regard. So I think like in terms if you're talking about like a university that's going to create that entity, like that's going to be able to control a whole project and be guide a client through everything. Like I think on both sides, like on the construction management and the architecture. But I guess it's like what is the intention? Like it's kind of like does it even have that intention any longer? Do you feel?
No, not at all. And I think that architecture as an entire industry, since probably the 1930s, has tried to like kind of push themselves further and further away from liability. Yeah. There's an architect. His name's eluding me right now, but he's got a great.
From Yale.
He's got a great TED talk. He talks about
how. I know who you're talking about.
He was at a groundbreaking ceremony.
Yeah, you sent
and
that
he had this. They gave him these hard hats, and he put the hard hat on. And he got home and he looked inside. It said like, for decorative purpose only, and it wasn't a real hard hat for a real construction site. And he kind of like, as an architect, he kind of felt like he was there for decorative purposes only. Like, it was this big thing. And so we've seen this kind of push away from liability. And it's sad because architects study more hours than any other profession, right? Yep. It's the most difficult degrees to obtain. Yeah. They are economically rewarded, but you think for the hours the architects.
You think so? You think so?
Not. I think they deserve
comparatively.
Not.
They ain't.
For the hours they put in and the professionalism and what they bring to the table, they are not. But I think it's because of the liability issue. They're not willing to be liable for a lot of things.
It's totally what it's part of.
You read the first couple pages of any construction document set. It's just like waiving any liability of anything that happens in that document set.
Right. And you got to be great. You need to be a great designer. Yeah. To really like. Because that people will pay for that. I mean, that makes people feel amazing, right? Yeah. But you got to be like...
Well, good design will save you money. And I think that's one thing that people have trouble paying on the front end. Yeah. But if it's designed correctly and you're maximizing your budget and your investment, you could overbuild or underbuild and be unhappy, or overbuild and spend too much money on something. Yeah. But
I'm just saying, like, those architects who choose to just specialize in design, it's like... their clients need to not really care about the cost as much, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the budget. I went to architecture school for about 7 years, and I think we probably talked about budgets 8 times in 7 years. You know what I mean? Yeah. But we talked about a lot of other things a lot more. Yeah. And I think for me, it's like the budget is it's a parameter. It's a parameter of the design. Right, so it's like the way the sun moves across the sky. It's the way that what your plot of land is that you're working with. It's one of the things you have to take into consideration to be an effective designer. And the fact that like so many individuals, or we're teaching so many individuals to ignore it. Yeah. It's just like ignoring an entire. Right. It's just removing.
It's not preparing them for like being successful and having projects built.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was never, for me. It was never. I never wanted to do paper architecture. Yeah. I got into the industry to actually. See what I designed.
How did you like look at because when you came to NEDC, you were like, I'm doing design build, man. Like that's my thing. Like how where in your so you went to the community college classes. Yeah. You were like, okay, architecture is my thing. Like when were you like design build is my thing?
So in the community college, in my first semester there, I was talking to one of the professors there, and he handed me this book about these guys called Jersey Devil, and they were guys that were around the 70s. And they're still around today, but they graduated from Princeton in the 70s. We've met them before together. You're very aware of them. But they were really kind of like the...
thanks to you, though, actually. You're the first person who told me about it.
Yeah, they're really like... I'm not like... Almost like the fire starters, I think. And like a lot of
they're
people...
They're like the Elvis of like...
Yeah, exactly. 100%. They really kind of rekindled the interest in it.
Yeah.
And they're like heavily studied now in most architectural history classes. Like they're very well known.
Two of them are in, one's at Miami University, I believe, and the other one's at Seattle or
Washington.
Washington.
Yeah. Washington. Yeah. And they really like it just made sense. Like they went about it in a different way than I would have. They were more about the process of construction.
Yeah.
Really influencing the architecture.
Yeah. They were like renegades. I mean, at the time, the AIA actually was illegal to build as an architect. So these guys were like going against the AIA is the American Institute of Architects. It's like the entity, the membership group for architects. And they had it written in their code of ethics that you could not build if you were an architect. And these guys, saw that it didn't really make any sense.
No, yeah. I think one of my favorite quotes is, I forget which one was set up, but it was basically like, they graduated from architecture school for 5 years, and they said they never touched a hammer. And it was the equivalent of going to music school for 5 years, never touching an instrument. It's just ridiculous.
Like, it's a great analogy.
It made no sense. And I firmly believe that architects should have to work construction.
Yeah.
Like I don't think the 1,000 hours of the internship credits should be an option to work construction. I think you should have to work construction for 6 months.
Totally. The earlier the better, too, I think.
And it's getting, honestly, like, the design building is becoming more popular as an idea. I don't have a lot of hope for architecture the way it's currently practiced to really help evolve construction, which it should. I think architects should be the ones that are really improving buildings, improving building systems, like the way we install things, the way things go together.
Yep.
But the way that it used to be we hand drafted everything, right? So you were drawing details over and over and over again. So you're always thinking about that detail every time you had to draw it. You were considering it, like, how can we improve this? And we moved to CAD, which is computer-aided drafting, and like we started copying and pasting, right? So people just copied and pasted. They weren't thinking about it each time. And now that we move into BIM, which is building informational modeling, we're just kind of building this model of a building, and you're just telling the model like what it should be. So these standardized kind of wall structures and these things are built into the model already, so you're not really thinking about it. So it used to be like, if you're drawing a wall section, you drew the plywood, you drew like the 2x4
You had to think it out.
You drew the insulation, you drew the drywall, you drew the trim, you knew what that was. You knew like what it took to kind of put it together. Even with just a pencil, we were still drawing it. And now with like BIM or with, even with copy and paste wall sections in CAD, you're not really considering it each time.
That's a good point. So we're about to the end of the show, but I'd like to. I know you're a Detroit boy.
Yeah.
And you have a goal to go back to Detroit and develop some stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You talk about that?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think that design build can really benefit development quite a bit, because you can really look at your investors' money and take care of everything. And to be the holistic person that takes care of everything.
The developer, I think, is the ultimate design builder, right? Like, that's when you really talk about being responsible for a whole project.
Yeah, and I think too, cities and developers, if you look around urban development, I think 30, 40 years ago, they weren't considering the whole as much as they are today. But I think you look at certain neighborhoods that are like, oh, we understand that if we have a park, all the other buildings are worth more money. Right, as opposed to just every person building the biggest building they could possibly build.
Yeah.
So I think that when you look at like, it takes, I think, a lot of moving parts, a lot of pieces coming together for that, like the urban city planners, like the city itself helping subsidize certain things. But yeah, I'd like to really, like I said, I think the beauty of architecture really helps something improve. It can't be understated, or overstated.
Yeah.
And I think Detroit could benefit from that.
Awesome, man. I think so too, and I'd love to help you with that. And thank you for being the second, forever going down as the second guest on the Design Build Show. If anybody wants to help Brad, let him stick with what he's doing right now for a little bit. but then feel free to invest in be an investor. Next time Brad is on the show, he's going to be on the cover of the magazine. And any parting words?
No, I just appreciate your time, and I think design build is extremely pertinent and important. So thank you for looking into it.
Yeah, baby. We're bringing it back. I mean, really, my purpose is like the universities are going to be. It's going to be like a design build school, and then you can like major in design, you know,
Yeah.
or construction management, but it's all in house.
Yeah.
And I think initially it should be, you should do a little bit of all, like,
Yeah. I think,
you know, and have a construction background.
Wentworth allows you right now. I want to say you can major in architecture, but you could have a minor in construction.
Oh,
management,
cool! Yeah,
which is
that's awesome.
That's the first step, right?
Yeah. We're gonna revolutionize the world, baby.
Let's do it. Someone's
All
gonna
right.
do it.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, thank you very much.
thank you.
Oh, I was supposed to give this shout out in the beginning, but we're at Post 390. It's an awesome restaurant in Boston. Check it out. And thank you again. We're going to do one of these a week.